Welcome to a journey, a story to be told, where lives and hearts unfold. It's more than just a label, it's our identity. Breaking free, discovering who we're meant to be. Beyond the binary, we shine so bright. With every step we're taking flight. In every voice, a truth to find. Beyond the binary, we're redefining life. So tune in and join the ride. With love and pride, we're side by side. Beyond the binary, together we'll see the beauty in our diversity. Join the ride with love and pride. We're side by side beyond the binary. Together we'll see the beauty in our diversity. Yeah. The beauty in our diversity.
Welcome back to Beyond the Binary. I'm your host, Julie, and as always, I'm joined by my incredible host, Chloe. In today's episode, we'll dive into a topic that hits close to so many transgender communities, like navigating family relationships and finding acceptance.
Yeah, this can be one of the most challenging aspects of the transitioning process because family dynamics are so deeply integrated in our lives. It's a space where people often seek unconditional love and support, but it doesn't always turn out that way. So today we're going to be talking about how we navigate those relationships and work towards fostering understanding, and most importantly, how to take care of ourselves during this process.
Let's start talking about coming out to the family, because this can be one of the most emotional, charged moments in the entire process. Some families react with love and support, while others will actually be very distant and even hostile. So it can be a very mixed situation. For me, example, like I said before, when I came out to my sisters, they figured it out, like they were aware of that I wasn't really myself. But when I told my parents, like my mom, she started crying. She blamed herself for me being transgender. So she had it way harder dealing with it than my sisters. For example, my father, he also had it hard. Like, I think he still has it hard sometimes now, but it's way better now. But you gotta see it like this. I was their only son out of a family of 5, as being the middle child as well. It was for him very annoying that his only son, like normally the only person that could bring another family member into the family with the name, suddenly not being able to do that anymore. So it's not always easy.
No, yeah, I imagine it's always a bit of a gamble going into those situations with each family member. And there's the assumption that because family is supposed to love you unconditionally and you're sort of raised with that understanding of no matter what, they're going to love me, it'll be easy, but that's not always the case, and it sounds like that was the same for you. So some family members, take time to adjust, and others may never fully accept it, but it's important to manage those expectations early on, which I think you did quite well.
Absolutely, like understanding that everyone is at a different stage of acceptance is crucial. You might be ready, but your family might need more time. You need to be patient with them because you never really know how they will react, but you also have to give them time because you had years to come to your terms of who you are, but you're just dropping the bomb like, this is me, this is now, and that's brand new information, so it might take time for your family to comprehend it and adjust to it.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It takes patience, a lot of emotional resilience, and I guess that brings us to our next point. And what do you do if the reactions are negative when you're coming out towards your family?
Well, of course it's heartbreaking because some people face rejections, like, or hostility when they come out to families. You have been raised by them your entire life. You have spent so many times with them, and having them be hostile or negative doesn't feel only devastating, it also hurts really badly. Like, luckily enough for me, my family were acceptant of it. But like I said before, like I have dealt with negativity as well, but then more from friends part. So I know people denying you or rejecting you or even intentionally misgendering or death naming you can be so hard, you know?
Yeah, I can't imagine how hard that must have been for you. What advice would you give to someone going through that right now? Obviously, there's so much talk around the trans experience, including this podcast, but people are still experiencing things like dead naming intentionally today. So how would you advise someone to cope with that?
Well, it's very important to understand that sometimes a family member doesn't accept you right away, because
Hmm.
you gotta see it like this. They are, in my case, for example, I was already older than 20 years old when I decided to come out. So
Yeah,
they have known me for 20 years as that name, as male. And so they will always have like, yeah, but your entire life you were this. So
mm,
in the beginning, your family will struggle with saying her, she, or your new name. Because,
hmm,
like, say for example, you have been called Chloe your entire life, right? You suddenly decide to name yourself Bart or Betty or
yeah,
Karen or whatsoever. Your family will always have an issue at the beginning to be like, name you the new name because they were used to calling you Chloe.
yeah. It's more of a habit than anything, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. It's the same in this situation. Like, your family might not be like, sure, you change names. They will try to do the best if they understand, but like, it's not always given that they instantly will be like, okay, this is now this is happening. Like, you will have family members that will try to pay attention to it, or they will not use names just to
Hmm.
make sure that they show acceptance and support. But you need to know that their reactions don't define your worth or validity.
Yeah.
So you have to keep in mind they will or might not change and accept you completely. But you also have to make sure you surround yourself with people who do support you. Whether it's friends, chosen family, like support groups, you need to find people that uplift you when you're down. Like, your family might never accept it. If they do, you're lucky. Or, yeah, lucky. But if they don't, you're not alone, you know?
Hmm. I mean, we spoke about this not too long ago, but my brother, they went through the same thing. They go by Lucy now. They're non-binary. They have an amazing support group at university, and as well as their sisters. Um, we love them just as they are. But when it came to family, they still go by their old name, and they don't really broach any topics with them because the family aren't ready yet. As you say, there has to be a correct time for them to be able to process that information. But then it's also important to understand, sometimes the family members who don't accept you right away, they may come around eventually. And some people just need time and education. In the meantime, it's okay to set boundaries for your own peace of mind and to make sure that you're okay first.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said before, it's very important to do it on your time and space. Like, if
Mhm.
you're not ready, don't overdo yourself. But you have to keep in mind that eventually they will know, and it's better to get it known by you than to hear it from somebody on the street. Like, oh,
Mm.
I heard this. Like, you do have to keep in mind the moment you set it in action, time will catch up on you.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot tell, like, hey, I'm non-binary or I'm trans to one category and expect it never to be reach the other category, because we know this world, there's a lot of gossip, there's a lot of talking and all that stuff. So you have to keep in mind that whether it's family, chosen family, friends, or whatsoever, it's always a ball that rolls. You tell one group, and the moment you tell that group, there's a ball in motion, and there's
Mhm.
the timeline. You do have to tell your own family before the ball reaches their point,
Mhm.
because it hurts way more for them to hear
Yeah.
from me call them a stranger, than to have heard it from your own child, your own siblings, and all that stuff. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Would you mind explaining to me? I'm familiar with the concept, but how would you define chosen family? You mentioned it just then.
Yeah, so let's dive deeper into that concept. Like, for
Mm,
those who are listening who might struggle with acceptance of biological families, you know
mhm,
that you can create your own family. A chosen family is basically like people you choose of your own, like who
mhm.
you love and affirm, like who you really want to be with. That can be like your best friends, and all that stuff. Because for me, like everyone has a chosen family. Like you have a blood family and chosen family, but not always are those two the same. Like, of course, blood family will always be blood family, but chosen
Yeah.
family, that's the family you choose. That can be your closest friends, that can be your neighbor, that can be whoever you want it to be, you know? Like, the term blood chosen family, like it says you chose it, has such an impact on the person as well. Because, like I said, you're never alone. You have your blood family
Mhm.
and chosen family. If your blood family doesn't accept who you are, then you always have the chosen family, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's such a huge concept in the LGBTQ plus community. I guess it's about finding people, whether it's friends, mentors, partners, even online communities who provide emotional support that you might not be getting from elsewhere, like your blood families. So I suppose it provides that extra support that you might need in that time.
Exactly, like your chosen family can be, like I said, your friends, like
Hmm.
people who you share experiences with. It can also be a group of online people that give you a sense of belonging. Like, I can say, for example, I do have also a chosen family.
Yeah.
And in one of the later episodes, we'll have somebody that is from my chosen family
Hmm.
into the podcast. Because, like I said before, I talked about her before in previous episodes. She has changed my life in so many ways just by listening and by helping me. So, it is very important to have both parties, like the blood and the chosen family. Because you might not be able to tell everything to your blood family, and then your chosen family comes in useful. Because you normally can tell more to your chosen family than to your blood family in most cases when it comes to this.
Yeah, I
Like,
guess it's really important to remember that your worth doesn't depend on the approval of the biological family, your blood family. There are so many people out there, like, the guest that we'll be having on the podcast that love and accept you for who you are. And I guess sometimes those are the people you meet later in life, not the ones you were born into. And I'm so glad that you found a community and chosen family that can support you.
yeah, totally. When, like, I struggled with my acceptance from my family, not that they
Mm,
weren't acceptant, but like, it was, like I said before, already an emotional mix for me when my mother and my father had issues with it.
mm,
I leaned onto my chosen family. Like, I talked to them in ways that I barely speak to people. Like, you know me for a while now, and I never normally talk about my life. I
no.
normally never talk about how I'm feeling, because I don't want people to feel pity, you know? I don't want people to be like, oh, so sad, like, how can we help you, just out of pity? But like with chosen family, like with the chosen family I have, it's completely different. I can talk to them
Mm,
about anything in life, and they
mm.
will just listen, help where they can. Like, it is such an empowerment to actually have them. Like, sure, in previous episodes with Janko, we talked about talking to therapists.
Mm.
Well, it is very important to talk to them, but like, I think talking to chosen family can be way more important because they help you along the way and they can do it at their time while actually aiding you.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially with your experience, the fact that you can reach out to chosen family and just have that unconditional love that we expect from our biological families, being extended to you by someone who was previous in your life a stranger. That must have felt like a bit of a lifeline for you, to have that, without judgment. I'm just coming to the table, that people are just listening to you and they're just understanding your experience and just being there for you as opposed to just relying on, a therapist.
Yeah, I mean, it is way more important than people think. Like,
Hmm.
your chosen family is incredibly important, but you also have to try to make it work with your biological family.
Yeah.
So it's a mix that is always there, because, like, your father will always be your father, you know? Your mother
Yeah.
will always be your mother. Whether they like it or not that you're changing, they will always be there in a way.
Hmm.
They might not love you for the fact that you're transitioning or whatsoever, but you gotta keep in mind, you will always be their child.
Yeah.
Like, you do belong in that biological family,
Hmm.
but they might not show it, and it might hurt them as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
I
like,
think, I mean, patience is one of the biggest things here. Sometimes family members just need time to process, understand, and beyond that, education can also make a huge difference. So, providing resources can help your family better understand your experience.
absolutely. Like,
Mm.
if you have done some researches, sharing resources like articles, videos, book tapes,
Yeah.
or whatever you can find online can take some pressures off you explaining everything to your family and allowing them to learn at their own pace. But, like, you don't have to force them to educate them if they're not ready or if you're not ready. Because
Mm.
in the end, you need to prioritize your own well being first. Like, it is very important for people to understand that it is family you're talking to, it's not a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
You should not force people to be like, this, and this. Now you have to do this. Like,
Mm.
we all have our own mindset. We all know how we should go about in life. So people have to realize that no matter what happens in life, you cannot force people to act differently because you wanted to. You can help them along the way,
Mm.
family or chosen family, to be more educated about it, but we should not force it. Like, in case of, for example, transgender,
Mm.
like, I told them, I explained them, and what they do with that information is all up to them. It's the same with, like, non-binary. If you educate them,
Mm.
they might learn and understand more, but you cannot force.
Mm.
It's all based on the person receiving the information, what they do with the time and the stuff they learned, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So, would you recommend to people they approach their families with the resources available that they can go find, or do you think the family should be the ones responsible for actually finding out about what, their family member is going through?
What I think is best is a mix of both,
Mm.
because it's a wide spectrum, you know. Transgender or non-binary in this case is like, you you basically provide some information, resources, but you don't want to overload their brains,
Yeah.
because you might know all the information. Internet knows almost all the information, because there's a lot of people that have gone through it, sharing
Mm.
their stories and all that stuff. So there is a lot of experiences on the internet, but you don't want to overload the brain
Mm.
of the person receiving it. So you have to know the person to actually be like, this, and this. If you want to learn more, we can actually have that talk with more, or I can show you where you can find all the information.
Mm.
But you do have to keep in mind that you have to not force everything, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, because that can cause some resistances, perhaps, if you're saying, this is who I am now, and it's already such a big shock to the family members to then say, okay, now you need to do this, you need to read this, you need to understand this. It might be quite overwhelming for them in a situation that's already quite sensitive.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have a non-binary in your family. Like,
Mm.
they haven't told the complete family. So the moment they do, the entire family, except the people that already know, of course,
Yeah.
will be like, what? Some
Hmm.
might be like, oh, I already knew this, like, I
Yeah.
expected this. But then others will be like, be such in shock, like, not understanding what has happened
Mm.
or why it's happening. And that's when you providing information can be beneficial. If you
Yeah.
cannot provide the information or be like explain why and what happened, people might not understand it. And having to put them on like just do your research,
Mm.
they will not do it. Or not a lot of people will do it because it's your life
Mm.
and you basically just gave them the biggest shock in their life. So
Yeah.
at that point, you have to provide some information towards them to make the shock less aggressive or less big as it is. Because, like,
Hmm.
coming out from male to female is already a big shock.
Yeah.
Like, I can understand your family will have a shock as well when your relative comes out as non binary, because that's just a shock, you know?
Yeah, and I wonder, I'm not sure if you experience this, but with the generational issues, I feel older generations find it a lot more difficult than younger generations to come around to this idea because we're around the internet all the time. We have, resources that, come up to us, and we know really the LGBTQ plus community about it, and at least have a general understanding of it. Whereas older generations, they don't have access to the internet or refuse to access the internet, so they can find it a lot more disorienting to find this information out. And my brother, for example, has been asked by my parents to not tell the grandparents about this because they'd find it too difficult to process, and that's something my brother now has to live with, like keeping that part of themselves away from the rest of their family must be quite difficult too.
Well, for me, it actually went different. Like, not a lot of people know this, but,
Hmm.
well, both of my grandmas died and both of my grandpas died. But, like, the mother of my father's side, who I
Hmm.
had a good connection with, kind of figured it out on herself before I came out.
Oh wow.
Well, not long later she died, but it's not because of that, of course. Like,
No.
just to make that clear, I didn't give her a shock of her life and she ended her. No, 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 no. Because that would be devastating for me, to be honest.
Hmm.
Like, but I had a talk with her afterwards, and she was like, if this is what you really want in life, just go for it.
Yeah.
Life is already way too short to not go for it and not enjoy being happy, you know? And
Hmm.
that surprised me the most because, as you said, the older generations always have more issues
Hmm.
with that kind of stuff because they are not educated or they hadn't faced it in their lives before.
Yeah.
But then for my grandma to talk to me in that way gave me such a boost
Hmm.
of confidence to be like, yeah, I got approval of at least someone
Yeah. Did it
already.
surprise you that she already suspected and was so supportive of you?
I mean, do you. Is it something you expect people to recognize? No. Like, you're always trying to hide it, you know? Especially when you're not out yet. You're trying to hide it. You're trying to do everything in a way that people wouldn't expect it to be like that. So,
Hmm.
say for example, you start dressing up feminine behind locked doors.
Hmm.
You start wearing makeup behind locked doors. So do you expect people to be like, yeah, this and this? No, because
Hmm.
you're doing it behind locked doors. So for me, having her know it before I
Mm.
even told people was like, okay, so it is kind of obvious.
Yeah, it must have been reaffirming for you to think, even though I've kept it private, I've tried to keep it behind locked doors, there is still that recognition there of the person you are.
Yeah, definitely. Like
Mm.
it was very annoying to hide it. So having her be like, "It's okay, I'll just go for it."
Mm.
It really it was for me like very emotional. First of all, because I know she had issues with her health.
Yeah.
Like I knew she was struggling, but
Mm.
like at the same time, her telling me like you should go for it was like such a gift.
Mm.
And I haven't spoken about that with my family either. Like they don't know that she knew and she
Oh,
accepted it. Um, because how do you tell your family like, oh yeah, grandma knew before you, grandma
mm.
accepted it, and now she's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to tell people that,
Yeah.
but like for me it was a blessing from my grandma, and I
Yeah.
don't think there is anything more powerful at that moment.
Yeah. That, as you said, that must have been a real gift from her. And that just that acceptance and that unconditional love, knowing that you probably needed that going forward and going to tell you the rest of your family, that must have really propped you up and made you feel confident in who you are and going forward with, oh, I'm getting emotional talking about this. It is such a nice story. It's really touching.
Yeah, I mean, it was a gift to me.
Mm.
And like, that's what I mean, like, you have to tell your family eventually.
Yeah.
Like, she figured it out on her own because we had a connection, you know?
Yeah.
And if you have a connection with, say, for example, your grandparents or your parents, some parts will slip eventually.
Yeah.
Like, it's better for them to know so that you and both them can be like, yeah, I already knew this. Just be yourself and be happy instead of
Hmm.
always having to hide it. Like I don't know the situation of how well your relative goes with your grandparents.
Mm.
Like I don't know that connection, but if they did have a good connection or do have a good connection, then the grandparents will be like already feeling something. So at that point, I'm not really sure. Like, should you really hide it? Because people will eventually slip it anyway. Say you're all going to visit on a family meeting or reunion whatsoever,
Mm.
and you then accidentally use the new name.
Mm.
How do you think the grandparents will react then if you then use like the
Mm.
new name accidentally
Yeah.
in their?
Oh, gosh.
I think that
Uh,
would hurt them even more than you telling them. Like you telling them now will be like, okay, they might accept it, might not accept it, but in a family
Please.
reunion, suddenly having to have that shock
Mm.
is, in my opinion, way harder.
Yeah, because I suppose being prepared for that kind of situation, even if they do or don't accept it, would be a lot easier than, wait, what was that? What was just said? I don't understand, and being completely, off guard about it. I guess all I can say is that we are very, very careful currently, um, and it's just a shame that I think that the grandparents would be very accepting of it, but unfortunately, it's the parents that are blocking that out of fear of how the grandparents will react. But I've said to my brother, I think you should just be open and be who you are. And they are very expressive. I would be so shocked if no, like everyone didn't already know because of how expressive they are, in how they dress and how they display themselves. Everything about them is. just so unique as a, non-binary person. It's beautiful to see. So I don't see how, like your grandma, she saw that beauty in you. She saw that, this is who you are as a person. I would be completely devastated if other people couldn't see that in my brother as well.
Exactly, and that's what I mean. Like, if people think like you shouldn't tell because out of fear, you do have to keep in mind your grandparents do know that person as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
They might not realize the fact that they might have known already. Like you said, they already dress and express themselves in ways. People aren't always that stupid, especially when it
No.
comes to family. Like, hiding it from family, you could do that, but like, it's way harder for them to accept it once it comes out via somebody else
Mm.
than via you. Because in the end, you have to be the one that tells them.
Yeah.
Because let's say, for example, we all know Carl.
Hmm.
Like, say, for example, your brother told Carl, and Carl accidentally slipped it to you.
Mm.
You would be like, why didn't you just come to me?
Yeah.
Which is
I
logical.
guess I'd feel guilty that they didn't feel comfortable enough to come to me. That would make me feel awful.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
it would make you feel awful. Because it felt like you weren't, let's say, call it worthy enough
Mm.
to tell it to you directly yourself, but it had to come via a third party. It's the same
Mm.
with, like, say for example, again, the family reunion. Like, you all call them Lucy.
Hmm.
So say for example at the family reunion you're used to calling them Lucy. So then suddenly you say Lucy, they respond, and the grandparents will be like, what?
What is this?
What
Yeah.
is this? They will feel betrayed
Hmm.
and not understanding to why they weren't told this before. Because you're taking away a part of the family in that
Hmm.
way. Because by telling them, if they accept, the connection will be different,
Mm.
which is logical because they suddenly have Lucy in their life.
Yeah.
Somebody who's more happy about themselves. So, do we really have the right to take that away? In my opinion, well, that is up to the person coming out, of course, but
Hmm.
it's not fair towards them either.
No, I guess it would be in a way harming their connection with Lucy because it would be, coming from a third party, combined with feeling like, oh, they didn't feel safe enough to come out to them or to have that conversation. Now it's not a completely different person, but they would view that as my connection isn't what I thought it was with this person, and it could be irrevocable. But you'd hope, that that's not going to be the case, and that, they'll come around to the new information, whether it's from Lucy or whether, as you say, not ideal, whether it gets to them another way. But it's also important to prepare for the possibility that they might not come round. And I guess that's where what we were talking about earlier with chosen family, it becomes essential to have that support network just in case, your biological family doesn't fully accept or support you. And I guess it doesn't mean you're not deserving of love. I mean, Lucy is deserving of all the love in the world, and so are you. But you do have the power to create your own family, a network of people who will uplift you in those moments.
Exactly, because you said like it might damage the relationship, which is kind of logical because look at
Mm.
it from that direction. If they find out via another person, then what stops them from thinking their connection was fake?
Mm.
Because you have been, well, they have been Lucy for a while now,
Mhm.
and then suddenly the grandparents find out through somebody else.
Mm.
The first thing they would think, how long has this been going on?
Mm.
Is everything that what happened with them real? or was it just like a masquerade to hide themselves? So at that point, you could have like, and that was in my case as well. Like I did have to tell them because I was also afraid of having to tell them or letting somebody else tell it and them being like everything about the relationship was fake.
Yeah.
I had the same fear because you are dealing with family, people that raised you. You don't want to completely destroy the relationship you have. And we all know family isn't always the easiest to deal with. Far from. But you do have to keep in mind that it's better to tell them and and prepare them for the news than to hide it and let them feel like it's their fault and think everything was fake.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there's an authenticity issue, isn't there? It's matching up the person you thought you knew and thought you had a connection with and thought you understood fully and had that, family connection with to, oh, this is the same person, but not who I thought it was. So how far back, as you say, how far back does this go? What am I missing? What is wrong about my memories with this person? Because that wasn't their authentic self.
Exactly. And this goes back to you having to be patient with them,
Yeah.
but you also have to make sure you do not lie to them, because lying to them damages the relationship. Like, you're born into a family. You choose your own family, like both parties are there. And you choose to be around whatever family you want, like blood family or chosen family. And you have to keep in mind both are connected in a way, but at the same time, you you can separate them in a way. But
Yeah.
you have to keep in mind that you shouldn't go into toxic relationships with your family. So hiding information deliberately because you're afraid that they won't accept you is already like a small spark you're starting. Like you don't know if they will accept you or not. So you hiding it from them is not always the smartest thing to do. Even though you're scared that they might not accept you or they might not get it. Because I had the same issue, right? Because I had to come out to, well, 4 sisters and then
Yeah.
mother, father, who were separated at that time already. And of course the rest of the family. Uncles, aunts, and all that stuff. So you have to keep in mind it won't always be easy.
No.
But you can't spark toxicity already by hiding it. I had to tell my direct family first, of course. Like brothers, well, I don't have brothers, but like sisters and parents first to see how they would react. Because let's say I would talk to an aunt or uncle first, they would instantly contact my direct family.
Right.
Because what would that would create basically like, why didn't you trust me first to say it? So you already create like a spark of
Division.
exactly, and that's not a good base for a relationship in my opinion, especially not with family, whether it's blood family or chosen family.
And I guess with going through that experience, someone might not feel ready yet or comfortable yet with their own, point in their journey to come out to family. Would you say might be important to have conversations if they approach you to say maybe, I don't know, I'm going through something, but I'm not keeping things from you, but right now I'm not ready to discuss this? Or do you think it's better to just come out with, this is how I'm feeling, but I don't know how I might feel about it, in a week, in a month, and that just keep them updated with your progress?
Well, as we discussed earlier in previous episodes, coming out isn't something you just do on the spot. You think
Yeah.
about it. So by the time you actually coming out, you already know like this is not a phase.
Yeah.
This is not something you do for one day yes, one day no, one day yes,
Mm.
one day no. The moment you come out, this is something you are dedicated to do.
Yeah.
You are dedicated to live your life the way you wanted your life to be.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I do believe it's better to just be honest and be like, okay, I'm going through something. This is what I'm going through. And maybe the person you're telling is like, oh, I've had experience with it already. And they might actually be able to help you.
Yeah.
But if you're not open about it, to talk about it, you're not forced to tell anyone, you know.
Yeah.
But you have to keep in mind, the more you hide it, the harder it gets.
Mm.
Because you'll take distance from that person out of fear of them finding out or the fear of you telling them,
Yeah.
which is also not a good thing. Like, do you really want to live your life horrible? Or do you want to feel free about the decision you made of coming out and accepting the fact that you are who you are? I believe if you made a decision, you should keep fighting for it because it's your life.
Yeah.
And your life shouldn't be defined by others in a way. Because, like we said before, you have your chosen family.
Yeah.
You have support groups, you have friends, and all that stuff. So, to those who are struggling with family dynamics, it's okay to walk away from toxic relationships, but you also have to keep in mind to not create them yourself. And that's something most people forget. A relationship goes two directions. And that's something people have to keep in mind.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we need to be compassionate on both ends, and just keep communication open as much as possible, and really learn to lean on the people that support you, if it's with biological family, if it's with chosen family. Um, and it's such an important message that your journey is yours to take, and no matter where you are on that journey, there are people out there who will walk that journey with you, and gladly. So don't let toxicity and people that won't walk that journey with you hold you back from your true self.
Exactly. Like, that was such an important message. Like, the journey you take is not your own journey. You have your family, you have your friends, you have your chosen family. All those people are there to walk the journey with you.
Mhm.
So, in the end, family is important, whether it's chosen or blood family, you know.
Okay. So as we wrap up, is there anything else that you would, any advice you'd give to people coming out to their family if they're going into, if they find themselves in toxic situations, how would they navigate that? And maybe some advice on where they can find, connections and networks to help them with chosen family.
Well, chosen family is a big term. Like we said before, you can find them online.
Yeah.
Like, I found my chosen family online. Mostly on Twitch, which is kind of weird because Twitch is also very toxic place sometimes.
Yeah.
But like, there are some amazing communities out there. Like I said before, Gabby's community, Janko's community, your community. They're all like communities with lovely people. And if there's a toxic person entering it, it won't work because of the positivity in it. So there is a lot of places where you can actually find connection with people. You can create friendships in a lot of communities. Like, again, your community. Like, we played games quite a lot of times.
Hmm.
Say without the community that you created, we would not have been able to play games because we wouldn't have found each other. That's what I mean. With life gives you gifts, but what you do with them, it's up to you. You can throw away the chance of creating connections by being toxic or by being dishonest, or you can be honest and be like, yeah, this is me. You learn to live with it. Because, like, I remember when I came into your community, for me it was already annoying to be like, hey, I'm trans. Because, like, if we were to have voice conversations, it would be a shock if I didn't tell you before.
Right.
Because then you're suddenly not expecting the voice that you're getting. So, with communities, in my opinion, just be honest. That's when the real connection starts.
Yeah.
Same with family. Be honest. Don't go lying. Don't go hiding. Well, hiding you can do until you're completely ready, but don't intentionally hide it out of fear, because eventually you'll make a mistake. And then it gets worse.
Yeah. So I guess the main message is just be authentic to yourself, keep reaching out, keep making connections, and don't be afraid to walk away from toxic situations and to find places and people that will love you unconditionally and accept you for who you are, whether that's biological or not.
Exactly. Like, in the end, it's your journey to take. And no matter where you are in the journey, there are people out there who will talk to you and would walk it with you, you know?
Definitely. Oh, thank you so much for sharing today, Julie. As always, it's always enlightening. I have to say that the story about your grandma really touched me, so I'm sure it will help so many other people going into that, especially with elder relatives in their family, and maybe removing some of that fear, knowing that that you have that connection with people, and they might surprise you with how they react.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I do hope this episode has given encouragement and insights to navigating family dynamics and building your own community, whether that's like blood family, chosen family, or friends, or a community of your own, you know? Because that is very important to the person who's coming out, whether it's trans, non binary, lesbian, or even gay. Like, coming out is the most important part, especially the family acceptance, whether it's chosen or not family, or blood family. So in the end, you gotta do it, but you're not never alone.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of not being alone, I think at the end of every episode, we definitely always say, if you need anyone to reach out to, if you're taking the first steps in your journey, or even if you've been in your journey a while and you just need someone to talk to, me and Julie are here. And Julie's created this amazing space that people can reach out to and learn from. So there's all the resources that you might need here. And we'd always encourage you to always research, always be open, and always be compassionate.
Exactly, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Beyond the Binary. Thank you all for listening, and remember, you're not alone on this journey. Take care of yourself and each other.